the names of the specific regions of the DNA. They are in the report. When I go to them, then I will basically be able to show you what I meant about the specific regions of the DNA. So after the PCR is done, we do what we call electrophoresis, where it's basically that samples goes through a gel medium, and that's where, like, the electrophoresis is basically going for separation of those particular regions.
Manje-ke bese kuthi kuhlukaniswa-ke lawo ma-regions athile-ke noma-ke la kusetshenziswa khona-ke i-gel medium ukuthi ase ayahlukaniswa-ke lawo ma-regions athile.
So after the electrophoresis, we do what we call a gene mapper. That is another process that is done.
Bese kuba nenye futhi-ke i-process eyenziwayo-ke ebibuzwa ngokuthi i-gene mapper.
And what does gene mapper entail?
The gene mapper is where you are then checking the results after the electrophoresis. Then you will have the DNA results. That goes into a gene mapper, where the gene mapper analyzes the DNA results.
Ila usubheka khona-ke imiphumela-ke bese kuthi yona-ke i-gene mapper leyo ise manje ihlola-ke yona imiphumela yona-ke ye-DNA.
So when you analyze the DNA samples, you analyze them with the positive and the negative controls.
Uma-ke use uwahlola-ke lawo ma-results noma leyo miphumela-ke uwahlola-ke ngayo i-negative kanye nayo-ke i-positive control.
So the samples, when they are analyzed, they go together with those particular controls, so that when the gene mapper checks the quality of the results, he will then first check whether whether on the positive control is there a result, because you are expecting to get a result on the positive control.
Bese kuthi uma yona-ke i-gene mapper isibheka-ke imiphumela leyo izobheka-ke ukuthi ikhona yini-ke positive ekhona-ke.
So when the result shows that the positive control has the result, it means the system has worked.
Uma isitshengisake ukuthi-ke kune-positive control ekhona kusho lokho ukuthi-ke inqubo-ke noma i-system isebenzile.
Because you know the results, you are expecting the results on the positive control, and if there are results, it means everything went well.
Ngoba-ke ulindeleke imiphumela-ke uma kuno-positive, manje-ke uma-ke i-positive control leyo isiphumile-ke uyazi-ke ukuthi konke-ke kuhambe ngendlela noma kahle.
However, if there are no results in the positive control, it means something went wrong, so you will have to redo the whole samples.
Kodwa-ke uma kuwukuthi kuyona i-positive control leyo akunamiphumela evelayo noma-ke etshengiswayo, kusho ukuthi-ke khona-ke ungahambanga kahle, kufanele konke-ke use manje usuqala phansi.
The other control that is checked at gene mapper is the negative control.
Okunye futhi-ke okubhekwayo kuyona-ke i-gene mapper i-negative control.
So a negative control is just like water. So there is no sample in it, it's just water. When the results come out, you expect not to get any result.
Kuyafana nje-ke namanzi-ke awulindeleke ukuthi uthole lutho. Uma nje une-negative control uyazi ukuthi ayikho imiphumela oyilindele.
So when you analyze that particular negative control, if there are no results, it means there is no contamination.
Uma-ke ukubheka-ke noma ukuhlola-ke lokho bese futhi-ke u-analyze-ke leyo negative control, uthola-ke uma kungekho imiphumela-ke kusho ukuthi-ke akukho ukuphazamiseka okuye kwaba khona.
Should the negative control have results, it means at some point there was contamination.
Uma kuwukuthi leyo negative control inemiphumela enayo kusho ukuthi kukhona nje la khona-ke okukhona okwenzakele.
So when the negative control have results, it means the whole samples that were run with those particular controls, they will then fail.
kusho ukuthi ke uma kunemiphumela lawo amasample onke lawo enziwe naleyo negative control kusho ukuthi ke onke ke afail.
So that is where the gene mapper does. He does the quality checks on the results, and then those results will then be loaded into the system or the database where I can come in and be able to use those results because they have been verified to be correct results.
Ila i-gene mapper ingena khona noma ekwenzayo ke khona lapho ke ukuthi nje yenzeke isiqiniseko semiphumela leyo ke bese ukuthi yila mina ke engena khona ke ngiyona ke lokho okusho ukuthi ke imiphumela leyo ke esikhona ke isiqinisekiso sokuthi ke yebo leyo miphumela leyo ibhekiwe ke kwase kwenziwa isiqinisekiso ngayo.
If you say the results are loaded on a system, which system are you referring to?
So the results will be loaded on the DNA database where, like, if everything passed, then those results will go and then will be accessible to me and everyone to be able to use to do the DNA comparison.
Ila bese kuzondlulisela khona ke kwisystem ke yona ke ye-DNA ekuzokuthi ke mina ke engizokwazi ukuthi ngiyibone kanye nomunye ke ekuzokwazi ukuthi manje ke senzeke ukanalyze noma ke ukuhlolwa kwayo ke i-DNA leyo.
And what does the DNA comparison entail?
So the DNA comparison, my lord, is when you have a docket like this one where you take out the results of the specific samples in your case, and then you take for the samples from the scene and also sample from the reference from the suspect, which is called reference samples.
Lana ke uthatha ke manje ke amasample ke la asuka kwisini nalana ke asithi mhlambe ke awakhe ke umsola uma sekuwukuthi ke kunemiphumela ke manje etholakele noma ekhona la uzothathanisa khona.
So you take those two samples and then you do what we call a match, whether they match or they are not matching.
Ila usuqhathanisa uboneke khona ukuthi kuyahlangana noma akuhlangani.
So they can either match or be a non-match, which is an exclusion.
Kungenzeka ukuthi kuyahlangana noma ke cha akukho nje ukuhlangana okukhona.
Yes.
So in terms of the results, my lord, the results that you can get after or when the DNA is done, you can either get a single donor DNA profile.
Uma kuya ke ngokwemiphumela ke etholakalayo uyakwazi ke ukuthola ke okubizwa ngokuthi ke i-single donor profile.
So, like for instance, the reference sample, you are going to get a DNA that is from one individual. That is a single donor DNA profile.
Ila khona ke ozothola ke masithi ke kwisample leyo etholakele ke ukuthi ke isample leyo kusho nje ukuthi ke ibuya kumuntu oyedwa.
You can also get a DNA that is called a mixture DNA profile.
Kube nala ukhona uthola khona ke okuhlanganeke noma ukuthi ke lana ke kuhlangeneke noma iprofile leyo ihlangene.
So a mixture DNA profile, my lord, is a DNA that is donated by more than one person.
Lokho ke kukutshela ukuthi ke leyo profile leyo ke akusiyona ke yomuntu oyedwa kodwa ke umuntu nje ungathi ke ungaphezulu koyedwa.
So those are the results that you can get when the samples are analyzed.
Ileyo ke imiphumela ongayithola uma ke sekusetshenzwa ngayo ke ama sample lawo ebhekwa.
Now, what do you do after those results? After the results have been obtained?
So what I do is I do what we call DNA comparison.
Bese ngenza lokho ukuthi ke ukuqhathaniswa kwalo ke ulibofuzo.
So as I said, my Lord, is where I do whether check for a match or a non-match.
ila engibheka khona-ke ukuthi kuyahlangana noma akuhlangani yini.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes, and how do you reflect those results? Well, where do you reflect them?
So in terms of, I will then compile a DNA report to then tabulate the results and showing you the results as from those particular exhibits from the scene and the exhibit from the reference samples.
Ila khona-ke engizokwenza-ke manje lo mbiko-ke la engizokutshengisa khona-ke mayelana nemiphumela-ke noma ama-results lawo abuya kulawo masampuli.
Thank you. Now, thank you for that background. Can I then ask you to turn to Exhibit X11? Just identify that exhibit.
Yes, this is a letter, we call it SAP 21, that was written by myself.
Lena-ke incwadi-ke noma iletha esiyibiza-ke ngokusemaphoyiseni ukuthi i-SAP 21 eyabhalwa yimina.
The date?
The date is 2019-04-04.
Ngeyi-4 zika-April 2019.
Yes.
So basically, this, my Lord, is just an overall. I was just doing we were doing when I was doing the investigation, I then compiled what I got from all those particular exhibits.
Lana-ke imanje sengenza-ke uphenyo lwami la ngifake khona-ke konke lokhu engakuthola-ke kulawo ma-exhibits ahlukene.
Yes, in respect of which matter?
In respect of phosphorus case 636 of 10/2014.
Kuhlangeneke noma nokumayela-ke necala-ke eliwu-phosphorus case 636 10/2014.
Yes, and what is the lab number?
The lab number is 217731/14, and as well that lab number is for exhibit from the scene.
Kunale lab number-ke liyona-ke le lab number ile lab number yalama exhibits abuya-ke kwi-scene eku-217731/14.
And we also have the lab number specifically for the reference samples, which is 126225/16.
Bese kuthi-ke sibe nale lab number-ke yona-ke ebuya yona-ke eyama samples eku-126225/16.
Yes, you can proceed by reading the exhibit's description and the results.
So, my Lord, in this instance, is just to give you an overview as to the exhibits and the results that I got from those particular exhibits.
Lana-ke ukuchazela noma ukufundela-ke ama-exhibits engawathola kanye nemiphumela-ke yawo lawo ma-exhibits lawo.
So, in the first one is the R and L is the right and left hand swaps. There were two swaps. One is the right hand swap and the other one is a left hand swap. And those swaps were taken from the deceased, and the DNA that I got from there, it matches the reference sample of the deceased.
Lana-ke kuno-right, kuno-R, kuno-L, bese kuthi-ke hand swaps. Kusho ukuthi-ke isandla sakho sokudla kanye nesokunxele-ke kanye futhi-ke nokuthi kwakuwamasampuli kabani-ke kwaku-awakhe-ke umufi ase futhi-ke ukuthi-ke ahlangana-ke noma imiphumela ethi-ke yebo impela-ke awakhe umufi.
There, against the results, you mentioned it was FP, matched the deceased. Can you just explain what is FP?
FP, I meant that is the full profile result, which means it's a single donor DNA profile.
Lana ke u-FP uchaza ke ukuthi i-profile ephelele noma ke i-full profile futhi ke i-single donor profile ukuthi ke kubuya kumuntu oyedwa.
Yes. Next exhibit.
The next exhibit is the door handle swap. On that swap is a touch DNA. So on that particular swap. So that particular door handle swap, what I look at is the epithelial or the touch DNA, and then that touch DNA included G. Kumalo.
Lana ke sikhuluma ke ngehandle ke yesicapha noma yawo ke umnyango lana ke ukuthi ke ila ubamba khona ke ngibheka ke ukujuluka ke noma ke lokho kubiza ukuthi ke i-touch DNA iyona ke eyayifaka phakathi ke u-G. Kumalo.
Is there an indication of as to from which door handle in the house was that swap taken?
The indication I can check for that, but it's room 1.
Ukuthi ke isiphi ke isicapha phakathi ke endlini ngabheka lokho kodwa ke uma kuchaza noma kwakubhalwe u-room 1.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then the other swap as well is the second swap, also from the door handle.
Yes, of which room?
The door handle. Also there is touch DNA, and then that touch DNA as well included Miss G. Kumalo as well.
Bese kuthi futhi ke nakwesinye ke noma ke kwenye ke ihandle yesicapha khona ke endlini nayo ke ila ekubanjwa khona ke noma lokho kubizwa ukuthi i-touch DNA nayo ke iyafaka u-G. Kumalo.
Is the door handle of which room?
I can verify as well this one, which room is it, but yeah, let me, I can always check which room it is.
Thank you.
Ukuthi ke iliphi ke ikamera ke ngabheka ke lokho.
Yes.
And then I have a blood swap. That blood swap was taken from next to the TV stand.
Bese kuthi ke kuba ke neswap ke noma ke igazi ke lona ke elatholakala ke eduze nestand se-TV.
The swap number?
That is swap number 3.
Swap 3 lowo.
Yes.
So that blood that was taken from the TV stand included the deceased.
Lelo gazi lelo ke elatholakala ke eduze ne-TV stand lalifaka phakathi ke umufi.
And the fourth swap as well, it was also taken next to the TV stand.
Kanye neswap ke swap 4 nayo ke yegazi nayo ke eyatholakala eduze ne-TV stand.
So that particular swap as well included, that blood included the deceased.
Lelo gazi lelo ke ahlanganisa ke umufi.
And then we have the blood swap on the kitchen wall. Yeah, number 5 is the blood swap on the kitchen wall tile.
Bese kuthi ke u-blood swap 5 yena ke watholakala ke bonda ke lase kitchen.
So on that particular swap, we didn't get enough DNA.
Kuyona ke leyo ke iswap leyo ke akuzange kutholakala ulibofuzo noma i-DNA eyanele.
So when we say not enough DNA, it means there wasn't DNA enough to give us a DNA profile. So it's basically negative in terms of saying you can't use it because that profile is so little that you can't use it to complete anything else.
Leyo profile okusho ukuthi ke lo profile yayincane ukuthi ke ungayiqhathanisa ukhona nje ongathi uyisebenzise noma uyiqhathanise nabo.
And then we also have blood swap number 6, and as well is from the kitchen wall as well. So that particular blood included the deceased.
Bese kuthi futhi ke u-blood swap 6 ke nayo ke owatholakala ekitchen ahlanganisa ke noma ke ufaka umufi.
And as we continue, we go to the swap 7. Swap 7 is the swap that was taken from the toilet handle. That is the toilet handle swap.
Bese kuthi siya ke kuyena ke uswap 7 yena ke ihandle ke yase toilet.
So I got a female DNA, but it didn't include any of the females that I had in as reference samples.
Leyo ke yona ke imiphumela ke yase ke ikhomba ke kumuntu wesifazane ke kodwa ke ingakhombi ke kulaba engangenabo noma engangenama sample abo besifazane.
And then swap 8 is also a toilet handle swap, and then also that particular swap is a female DNA and included G. Khumalo.
Bese kuthi ke uswap 8 naye ke swap ke eyase toilet ke yona ke atholakala ulibofusi noma iDNA yomuntu wesifazane eyafaka ke uG. Khumalo.
And then the swap 10 is the swap that was taken.
Swap 9.
Swap 9 is the swap that was taken from the bedroom 3. On that swap 9, not enough DNA was obtained.
Bese kuthi ke kuba no swap 9 yena ke wathathwa ke ku bedroom noma ke ikamela lesithathu noma ke u bedroom 3 lapho ke imphumela ithi ke kwakungena DNA eyanele.
So that particular, it means it's negative because we can't use it, that particular, there is not enough DNA to give us a DNA profile.
Kusho ke ukuthi ke negative akuna DNA eyanele ukuthi ke isingasinikeza ke iprofile yayo iDNA noma ingasinikeza lokho esingasebenza ngakho.
And then the other swap, which is swap 10, that was taken from bedroom 3, also gave us not enough DNA.
Bese kuthi ke uswap 10 naye ke owathathwa ke ku bedroom 3 naye ke akasinikezanga iDNA eyanele.
And then we also have swap 11 that was taken from the Smirnoff can.
Sibese siba nayo ke uswap 11 yena ke owathathwa ke kwikani leSmirnoff.
And then that particular profile, it's a single donor profile and it matches Z. Khumalo.
Nalapho ke kube ke isingle donor profile ukuthi okushoyo ukuthi ke iqhamuka kumuntu oyedwa bese kuthi ke imatch noma ke iphuma ke imphumela ethi ke ihlanganisa ke uZ. Khumalo.
And then we also have swap 12 from Heineken, and then that particular swap included the deceased.
Bese siba ke naye ke uswap 12 iHeineken yona ke ihlanganisa ke umufi.
So those particular swap from the bottles is the ones that you swap where the person drinks. Is then that you will know who was handling that particular exhibit.
Lana ke ila ephuzwa khona ke noma ila maswap lana ke ebesetshenziswa ke ukuthi ke uswapa la noma ke usebenza la khona ke umuntu aphuza khona ikona ke ekuzokutshela ukuthi ubani ke ebephethe noma lokho noma esebenzisa khona.
And then there is a Scotch hat.
Bese kuba ke nesigqoko noma lokho kubizwa ngokuthi ke iScotch hat.
And then on that particular Scotch hat that was found on the scene, that particular Scotch hat exclude the suspect.
Bese kuthi ke kuleso Scotch hat noma leso sigqoko leso ke esatholakala kuyona ke indawo yesigameko siyabakhipha ke noma siyabakhipha asibahlanganisi abasolwa.
And then
did you compile a report in respect of this Scotch hat?
yes,
The results on the Scotch hat.
yes, I did, madam.
Khona ke umbiko ngwenzile ke mayela ke naso leso sigqoko leso.
Yes, we'll get back that to that later. Yes, you can proceed.
And another exhibit was the jacket that was taken from Mbata.
Bese kuba ke futhi ne jacket eyatholakala noma eyathathwa kuMbatha.
And then that DNA on the jacket included Mbata as well.
Leyo DNA leyo ke eyatholakala kuyona ke ijacket yamhlanganisa ke naye uMbatha.
And then you also have a jacket, that there was a hair that was lifted from the jacket. That is the hair, and then on the hair, we didn't get any DNA, so there was no DNA.
Kwakunenwele ke ezatholakala kuyona ke ijacket leyo, kodwa ke kuzona ke inwele lezo ke akukho iDNA eyatholakala.
There were also crutches. On the crutches, there was not enough DNA.
Kukhona ke nama-clutch ke induku lezi ke uma ke umuntu elimele kwakungena DNA eyanele.
So on those crutches, there was no DNA on them. So underneath is just the names of the individuals or suspect and the results as I had at the time.
Lana ke ngenzansi ke amagama ke noma ke abasolwa ke kanye futhi ke nemiphumela ke engibene ngaba nayo ke ngaleso sikhathi leso.
So the first is Twala Mthokozisi, and then he's excluded on all the samples.
Uqala ke uthwala umthokozisi akahlanganike noma ke akekho ke kuwo onke ama samples.
We also have Kelly Kumalo is also excluded on all the samples.
Bese kuthi kwesibili ke kuba uKelly Khumalo akekho ke kuwona onke ke ama sample.
And then we also have Umadlala Tumelo also is excluded on all the samples.
Bese kulandela ke uMadlala uTumelo naye ke akekho ke kuwona onke ama sample.
And then we have Longwe Twala also is excluded on all the samples.
Bese kuba ke uyena ke uLongwe uthwala naye ke kuwona onke ke ama samples akekho noma ke akahlanganiswa ama sample onke.
We have Zandile Khumalo. Zandile Khumalo, as I said, is included on the Smirnoff can.
Bese kuba ke noZandile Khumalo nanjengoba bese ngishilo ke ngaphambilini ukuthi ke watholakala ke kwiSmirnoff noma ke kwikani leSmirnoff.
The swap number?
Smirnoff can is swap number 11.
Swap 11 lawo ke ikani leSmirnoff kula bese ngafundile ngaphambilini.
Yes.
And then we also have Gladness Khumalo, who is included on the swap from the toilet handle.
Bese siba naye ke uGladness Khumalo yona ke yena ke kutholakele ke kwi-handle ke yase toilet.
And the swap number?
We have swap number 1 and number 1 and 2.
Kulo ke uswap number 1 kanye no 2.
We also have the deceased.
Now, if you can look at paragraph 8 of your the report that you've just put on record. On paragraph 8, which swap number is that?
On paragraph 8.
Yeah, number 8. Under exhibit's description.
Yes.
Yes, what is the swap number?
That is swap number 8.
Yes. Now, if you go to what you've just placed on record under Gladness Khumalo, what is the correct swap number there?
Under Gladness Khumalo, this should include as well swap number 1 and 2, and also swap number 8 as well.
Lana ke tholakala khona ke ukuthi uGladness ke yatholakala ke iswap yakhe ke ethwele kwi-handle yesixhapha sase toilet ke kufanele ukuthi ihlanganise ke u1 kanye no2 kanye naye ke uswap 8.
Yes.
And then the deceased is included on the swap 12, mouth of a Heineken can.
Bese kuthi ke base siya ke na ke umufi ke kutholakala ke ukuthi ke kuswap 12 that is ukusho ukuthi ke umlomo ke wa lo ikani le Heineken.
And also included on the left and on the right and left hand swap.
bese tholakala futhi ke nabesandla sakwesokudla nabesokunxele kuwona ke lawo maswap lawo,
as well as the blood swap 3 and 4, which is floor next to the TV stand,
bese kuthi ke igazi ke uswap 3 kanye no 4 phansi eduze nestand se-TV,
also on swap 6 kitchen tile wall.
kanye ke naye ke uswap 6 okuthayela ke wasekhi noma ke obondeni ke ekitchen.
Yes, what follows under 8 up to 50 is not really important. Can you just go to number 22?
Number 22 is the suspect name is Mapisa Mtokozeni.
Lana ke number 22 kama ke lomsolwa ke Mapisa Mtokozeni.
Mapisa Mtokozeni is excluded on all the samples.
Bese kuthi ke uMapisa Mtokozeni ke akakho ke noma ke akatholakala kahlangani ke nawo onke ke amaswap.
And then we also have number 23. 23 is Ntuli Fizokuhle.
Bese kuthi ke kuba number 23 uNtuli Fisokuhle,
And then is also excluded on all the samples.
nakuthi ke akahlangani ke noma ke akekho ke kuwona onke ama samples.
And 37?
37 is MS Sibia, as well is excluded in all the samples.
Bese kuthi ke u37 uMSCB naye ke akekho ke kuwona onke ama samples.
Yes, you can then go to the table as appears on exhibit X12. It's on page 2 of exhibit X12. Yes, you can proceed.
My Lord, on this particular table is the table where the results, relevant results from the exhibits from the scene and the reference samples are then compared.
Ilana ke sekuqhathaniswa khona ke imiphumela ke kuwona ke ama samples ayo ke iscene kanye ke sekwenziwa manje ke ukuqhathanisa khona la.
So on this table, my Lord, you will see the first column is written samples.
Uzobona ke lana ke kukhulunywa yokuqala ke kubhalwe ama sample.
So, like I said, the samples are those exhibits either from the scene or the reference samples.
Bese ngishilo ke ngaphambilini ukuthi ukukhulunywa ngala atholakaleke kwindawo yesigameko noma ke lawo ke asithi mhlambe ke atholwe kumuntu noma kubantu abathize.
So, the first sample is written sample and then with an indication of 1, that is swap 1, and then it has the container number, which is 14DCAH 8988, and it was contained in a bag which is PA 400215017.
Lana ke kubhaliwe ke ngaphansi kwakhe ke usample kwase kubhalwa ke uswap kwase kubhalwa u1 ukuthi ke lo swap 1 leyo ke wayeke ku container ewu14 DCAH 8988. Leyo container leyo eyayingaphakathi ke kwesikhwama ke sobufakazi esine number ewu-PA 4002150107.
And where was this swap taken?
The swap is the swap 1, which was taken from the door handle.
Leyo swap ke ilena ke swap 1 kule eqedwe ufundwa manje ke ekuyi handle ke yaso isiqaba.
Yes, of which bedroom?
That is bedroom 1.
Kuyena ke bedroom 1.
Yes.
And the next exhibit is a head, which is exhibit B. And on that head, the DNA that is analyzed is presumable high friction area. In simple, it's just the sweat.
Bese kuthi ke elandelayo ke bese kubhalwe lapha ke uhead B isigqoko ke ila ekuthi la khona ke okwakubhekwa ke lapho ukujuluka.
So that particular head was contained in a bag. That bag has a serial number or reference number PA 300788535.
Bese kuthi leso sigqoko ke sasingaphakathi ke kwesikhwama ke sobufakazi esine number ewu-PA 30788535.
So underneath, we will then go to the reference samples.
Na enzansi ke bese siya manje ke kuma sample ke noma ke lawo athathwe kubantu.
So the first reference sample is for the one for MZ Mapisa, and then the container number is 19DBAF 0198, and the bag number is PA 400463862.
Leyo sample leyo ke iyathathwa ke ku MZ Mapisa eyayi ngaphakathi ke kwi container ewu19 DBAF 0198. Leyo container ingaphakathi ke kwesikhwama ke sobufakazi esine number ewu-PA 4004638062.
And the next reference sample is from a Mapisa Mtoko Ziseni, and then that container is 13 DBAD 5906, and the bag number is PA 50021761171.
Landelayo ke isampulu eyathathwa ke kwakuyakhe ke uMapisa Mthokoziseni eyayikwi container number ewu13 DBAD 5906. Leyo container leyo ke ingaphakathi ke kwisikhwama sezobufakazi esine number ewu-PA 5002176171.
And the next is the reference sample of BS Ntanzi. That particular reference sample is contained in a container is 19 DBAN 1076, and the bag number is PA 40047187737.
Bese kuthi landelayo ke isampulu kwakuye yakhe ke uBS Ntanzi eyayikwi container ene number ewu19 DBAN 1076. Yona ke leyo container engaphakathi ke kwisikhwama sezobufakazi esine number ewu-PA 4004718737.
And the next reference sample is M Nube, and then the container is 20 DBAS 6469, and the bag number is PA 400493624.
Bese kuthi landelayo ke isampulu kwakuye yakhe ke uM Ncube eyayikwi container inumber yaleyo container ewu20 DBAS 6469 ekuyisikhwama ke esine number ewu-PA 4004936249.
So, my lord, the samples continue to the next page, and then we have the reference sample of Ntuli Fizokutle, and then his container was 13 DBAD 7184, and the bag number is PA 50021775590.
Bese kuthi landelayo ke isampulu kwakuye yakhe uMntuli Fisokuhle ekwi container ene number ewu13 DBAD 7184 ekwi bag ke ewu-PA 5002177590.
And then the last reference sample is from Sibia MS, and the container is 17 DBBG 2598, and the bag number is PA 4003827
bese kuthi ke elandelayo ke isample kwabe yakhe ke uSibiya MS ne container number ewu17 DBBG 2598 kanye ke kanti ke I number ke yesikhwama sobufakazi uPA 4003827407.
So in terms of samples, we have 2 samples from the scene and there are 5 reference samples.
Mayelana nawo ke amasample lana ke sinamasample amabili abayebuya ke wona ke kwindawo ke yesigameko kanye namasample awu5 bona ke wona ke athola noma athathwa ebantwini.
So on the samples, when you go to the next column, you'll see the next column is written gender marker or amelogenin, which tells us the donor of that particular sample, whether that particular sample, if the donor is a male, it will be XY, and if it's a female, it will be XX.
Lana ke bese kuba nala khona ekubhalwe khona ke igender marker okushoyo ke noma okusichazelayo ke ukuthi ke umuphi lo muntu lona ke isample lena ethathwe kuyena ke uma kuumuntu wesilisa uzobhalwa ke uXY uma kuumuntu wesifazane bese kubhalwa ke uXX.
So on the swab, if you look at the swab, you will see the swab has an XY.
Uma ubheka ke kuyona ke iswap uzoyibona ke iswap leyo ukuthi kubhaliwe ke XY.
However, what is important is to understand that on the swab, the DNA that was obtained is a mixture DNA profile.
Kodwa ke okubalekile ukuthi ke okutholakala noma okwatholakala ke kuyona ke iswap leyo ke kwakuyi profile ke eyayihlangahlangene noma ke mixture.
As well as on the head, it's XY, and the DNA as well there, it's a mixture DNA profile.
Kanye naso ke isigqoko ke uXY kodwa ke uma iprofile yakhona ke akusukuthi ke iprofile ekhomba ke umuntu othize kodwa ke kuyi mixture noma ke kuhlangene.
Can you just explain if you say if it's a mixture in the context of gender marker, or what do you mean?
So in the context of a gender marker, if you have XY, it means that particular mixture, it can be a mixture between a male and a male individual.
Lana ke uma ubheka ke ngikhuluma ngokuthi ke ihlangene ke iprofile yana ke uma ikunikeza ke uXY ungasho ke ukuthi ke ukuhlangana ke kuphakathi komuntu wesilisa kanye futhi nomunye futhi umuntu wesilisa.
Or in simple terms, it can be a mixture of more than one male individual.
Ma ukwenza nje kalula ke ukuthi ke ngenzeka ke ukuthi nje akusiyena nje umuntu wesilisa oyedwa.
So, and as well, if you still have that XY, it can be a mixture of a male and a female individuals.
Noma futhi ke usenaye ke leyo XY loyo kodwa ngenzeka ke ukuthi ke imixture yakhe ke umuntu wesilisa kanye nomuntu wesimame.
So when you look at the XY on a mixture DNA,
uma ubheka yena ke uXY la khona ke iDNA yakhona ke ihlangene noma mixture,
you must always remember that that XY, it doesn't mean that mixture is a only male individual mixture.
Lokho ke kungakuse ukuthi kuwena ke ngoba ke ku XY ukuthi leyo mixture etholakalayo lapho ke ukuthi ke umuntu wesilisa kuphela.
So in a mixture, so that X can represent an XX, which is a female.
Kulo ya X, kulo ya XY, uX lo seqaleni ke use engaba inkomba ke ka XX okuwumuntu wesifazane,
or the XY that is from the male individual.
noma ke uXY obuya ke kumuntu wesilisa.
My Lord, as I said on that particular swab, that was from the door, that was from the swab from the door handle, So that swap, I even mentioned that G. Kumalo was included in that particular swap.
Nanjengoba bese ngishilo ke uma ubheka ke kule swap leyana ke ihandle yesicapha bese ngishilo ngaphambilini ke ukuthi ke naye ke uG Khumalo watholakala ke lapha yana ukuthi ke wabamba ke lapha kule sasivalo lesiya noma kule sasicapha.
But there you can see that we have XY, but also her DNA can also be found in that particular swap that was taken from the door handle.
Nanoma sinaye ke uXY lapha yana kodwa naye ke eyakhe iDNA yatholakala kusona lesasicapha lesiya.
So the XY, like I said, can represent both a mixture that will have a male and males, or a mixture of males and females.
Nanjengoba bese ngishilo ke ukuthi uXY loyana kusengaba ke inhlanganisela noma imixture ke yayo ke umuntu wesilisa nomuntu wesilisa noma umuntu wesilisa nomuntu wesifazane.
But when we talk about, where I was speaking about gender amylogenin, where I'm talking about if it's a male, it's XY, if it's a female, it's XX, is when I talk about the single donor profiles.
Na la ngikhuluma khona ke ngithi ke uXY umuntu wesilisa, XX umuntu wesifazane, ila engikhuluma khona ke ngama profiles noma ke ngeprofile yomuntu oyedwa.
So if they take a sample from a female, any female, the result will come as XX.
Uma kuukuthi bathatha ke amasampulu ke kumuntu wesifazane noma kuumuntu umuphi umuntu wesifazane uma ke imiphumela ibuya izobuya ithi XX.
And when it's a male individual, then that particular sample will then be XY.
Uma kuumuntu wesilisa leyo sample leyo ke izothi XY.
So if you look at all the reference samples from Mapisa to Sibia, all of them, they are XY because those reference samples were taken from male individuals.
Uma ubuka ke ukusuka kuyena ke uMaphisa ukuyofika kuyena ke uSibiya uzobona ke ukuthi uXY ngoba ke onke lawo masample lawo athathwa ke kubantu besilisa.
The last thing I want to address in terms of the mixtures is that if you get a mixture and the amylogenin or the gender marker is XX, but it's a mixture, it means only females can be read in that mixture.
Kodwa ke ngisakhuluma ngako ke uXX kanye noXY la uthola khona ke ukuthi kuyinhlanganisela noma kuyimixture kodwa ke kuXX kusho ukuthi ke kuleyo mixture noma kuleyo kuhlangana lokho ke abantu besifazane kuphela.
So if a mixture has XY, it means you can read, it's possible to read males in that mixture and females in that mixture.
Kodwa ke uma ke imixture yakho ke kuXY kungenzeka ukuthi uma usureader noma usufunda ke lapho ukuthi ungahlanganisa ke umuntu wesilisa kanye futhi nomuntu wesifazane.
So if you have a mixture with XX, it means only females can be read in that mixture.
Kodwa ke uma kuukuthi mixture yakho ke uXX ukuthi nje abantu ke lapho ke ungabahlanganisa ke lapho abantu besifazane kuphela.
So my lord, I'm going to go to the bigger column. The bigger column is written STR loci.
Ngizoya ke manje kule column enkulu ke yona ke ebhalwe uSTR loci.
So these are the STR loci are the regions of the DNA that we look at in the forensics, that we know that when we look at these particular regions, we'll be able to identify individuals.
Lana ke indawo ke noma ama regions athile ke la esibheka kuona ke ukuthi uma sibheka kuona ke ila esingakwazi ukuthi khona ke sithole noma sikhombe khona ke abantu.
So these are the targeted regions that I was talking about, where when you are doing PCR, you are targeting specific regions of the DNA those are the regions of the DNA that we look at, that we know that we will be able to identify individuals.
Iwona ke la ebengikhuluma ngawo ke ngaphambilini ke mangikhuluma ngayo ke iPCR ngithi uma kubhekwa ke kuyindawo ezithize ke ila khona ke waziyo khona ke ukuthi kukhona ke ozokuthola khona.
So underneath that you will see there is start with the names of the regions start with D8S1179. And then they end up with FGA.
Uma ke ubheka ke aqala ke kusandla sakho sokumaleka uqala ke ngo DAS 1179 bese egcineni ke ikholam yokugcina ke iphela ngo FGA.
So those are the names of the DNA regions that we look at the forensics, that we know that when we target these specific DNA regions, we'll be able to use them to identify individuals.
Ilama regions ke bengikhuluma ngawo ukuthi uma sibheka kuwona ke noma ke iwona ke esiwatargetayo ukuthi uma sibheka kuwona ke ila esokwazi ukuthi sikhombe khona ke noma sihlanganise khona ke sithole khona abantu.
So the DNA from all those particular regions, that DNA, when you look at the DNA that is obtained from all those DNA regions, they will then give you a DNA profile of an individual.
Uma ubheka ke kuzona zonke lezo ndawo noma lawo ma regions onke ke lawo eDNA ila khona wona ke azokwazi ukuthi abe inkomba noma akhombeke kwi-profile yomuntu.
So if you look at any reference sample, for instance, because it's a known sample, the DNA from all those DNA regions, that is obtained from all those DNA regions, will then give us the unique DNA profile of that particular person.
Uma ubheka ke lawo ma profile lawo ku region yonke ke futhi use uyofika ke egcineni ila ezokunika khona ke I profile ekuyiyona ke ephelele yomuntu.
So you will see underneath the DNA regions, you will see their numbers.
Ngaphansi ke kwawo lawo ma regions uzobona ke ama number awo.
The numbers represent the characters that an individual has inherited from both parents.
Inamba leyo ke ikunikeza ke noma ichazela ke lokho ke nawo noma lawo ma character ke umuntu lowo awatholile kumzali ngamunye kulabo kubazali ababili umuntu anabo.
So all individuals have their own unique numbers that represent the characters that they have obtained from their parents.
Umuntu ngamunye ke une number ke yakhe ke echazayo ke ama characters ke umuntu awatholile ke kumzali ngayedwa.
So I'm just going to illustrate using a known sample. In this instance, I will use the last sample on the page 2 of 5, that is M. Mube.
Lana ke engizoyisebenzisa ke ilena ke ebhalwe egcineni ke isample ebhalwe ke uMncube lana ke kulo page 2 of 5.
You will see, even in all the you will see that there are two numbers.
Uzobona ke ukuthi kunama number amabili.
So underneath each and every DNA region, there are two numbers.
Ngaphansi ke kwe region ngayodwa ke kulamasa uzobona ke ukuthi ke kunama number amabili.
So when we look at M. Mube, you will see on D8S1179, you will see we have 12 and 14.
Uma ubheka kuyena ke la bhalwe khona ke eMncube bese kuba nale yakhola ke eD8 S1179 inumber ke ekhona ke lapha yana ezansi eduze kwakhe eMncube u12 14.
So those 12 and 14 represent the characters that he obtained from both parents.
Lo ya 12 nalo ya 14 uchaza ke ama characters ke noma lokho ke akutholileke kuba kumzali ngamunye kulabazali ababili umuntu anabo.
So 12 can either come from the mother or father, or 14 coming from the mother or father.
U12 ke ngenzeka ukuthi usuka uqhamuka kuma noma kubaba noma u14 uqhamuka kuma noma kubaba.
So for us to know is when, for instance, we are doing paternity, we'll be able to show you, when we have his father and mother, we'll be able to show you these 12 come from the mother and these 14 come from the father or vice versa.
Kodwa-ke uma sekwenzeka-ke manje sekubhekwa-ke ukuthi lana-ke sinabazali bobabili-ke kuyabhekwa-ke manje ukuthi-ke impela-ke uwumntwana wabo yini, yila esokwazi-ke ukuthi manje sikhombe khona-ke ukuthi u-12 lona-ke ngaphandle-ke ngabazake ubuya kuyena uma, u-14 ubuya kuyena ubaba.
So you will see, as I said, the parents, each parent will give half of the DNA, which will then represented by these numbers, and then which are 2, which means half from one and the other half from the other.
La manamba-ke lawa-ke la 12, 14-ke ila asichazelayo-ke ukuthi ingxenye ibuya kuma, ingxenye ibuya kubaba.
So if you look even on the other reference samples, you will see that they have 2 numbers as well.
Noma ubheka-ke kwamanye-ke amasample uzobona ukuthi nawo-ke anamanamba amabili.
So I'm going to go to the swap 1 on page 2 of 5. The first sample, you will see, as I said, it's a mixture. You will see on D8S1179, you will see we have 12, 13, and 14. 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Uma sibheka phezulu-ke ku-swap 1 ngishilo-ke ukuthi-ke laphayana-ke ukuthi-ke i-mixture leya noma-ke kuhlangeneke laphayana-ke manje-ke amanamba esinawo laphayana-ke u-12, u-13, u-14 kanye no-15.
So those indicates that characters come from more than one person.
Lokhuyana-ke kuyinkomba-ke noma-ke kuyatshela-ke ukuthi lokhuyana-ke okutholakala laphayana akubuyi kumuntu oyedwa.
So it's possible, there are possible combinations that you can get there in terms of the DNA that you can get from that particular region.
Make kuleya region leyana kuyasho-ke ukuthi-ke laphayana-ke kungenzeka-ke ukuthi-ke kunama-combinations-ke awungawathola noma ama-combinations ahlukene atholakalayo kuleya ndawo noma kuleya region.
So in a mixture, what is important is for us, when we do DNA comparison, is to check whether the reference sample of an individual can be read in that particular mixture.
Okubalulekile noma okusemqoka-ke la kutholakala khona-ke ukuthi-ke lana-ke kuhlangeneke noma-ke awutholi umuntu oyedwa ukuthi isample noma-ke i-reference sample-ke yomuntu-ke noma-ke oyitholile-ke iyatholakala yini kuleya mixture leya.
So you are basically looking at the characters of the reference sample compared to those characters in the mixture to check whether that particular person of the reference sample is he part of that mixture or not.
Manje-ke uzobheka-ke ukuthi kunalama characters atholakalayo-ke kwisample-ke asithi-ke isample etholakale kumuntu othize ube usiyoqhathanisa-ke nalokhuyana okuthola laphayana-ke kuleya mixture ukuthi-ke le sample lena yalo muntu onayo iyatholakala yini kuleya mixture onayo.
So what is important for us to say a person is included in a mixture, he has to be included in all the DNA regions.
Ukuthi-ke sitholeke ukuthi umuntu loyo uyatholakala ukhona kuleya mixture ufanele ukuthi-ke kuma-DNA regions abe ukhona noma-ke atholakale kuwona onke.
So his characters in specific DNA regions must be there in the mixture for us to say that person is included.
Ukuthi-ke sisho-ke ukuthi loya muntu loyana naye-ke uyahlanganiswa laphayana-ke ama-characters akhe kwi-region ngayodwa kulama-regions ahlukeneke ukuthi-ke uyatholakala.
So I'm gonna do the just to illustrate as well, looking at the results, I'm gonna start with the reference sample of MZ Mapisa.
Ngizoqala-ke ngayo-ke i-reference sample yakhe-ke u-MZ Mapisa.
So if you look at on D8S1179, Mapisa has 13 and 13.
Uma ufunda ke lapha kuyena uMaphisa ubese ubheka ke ngenzansi kwakhe uD8S 1179 uzothola ke inamba elapha yana ke u1313 kuyena uMZ Maphisa.
Sorry, Captain, if I may just interrupt you, Malo, to see the court time has almost expired. Will this be an
What time is it
appropriate
now?
time? It's 15:32, Malo.
15:32.
Yes.
Are you still going to be long, sir?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are we available tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll adjourn your evidence to tomorrow.